Our next area is types of network analysis. Now, in the types of network analysis, remember we are done with the phases of network techniques, whereby we talked about the planning stage, the scheduling stage, and finally the control stage. So in the types of network analysis, the following are the types of network techniques. Critical path method, that's number 1. 2. Program evaluation and review technique. 3. Unitex, TOPS, scan, and finally LESS. Now remember, in network analysis, we are concerned with the first 2, critical path method and program and evaluation and review technique. The last 3, Unitex, TOPS, scan, and LESS, are normally used in technology, but our interest is now in the management, in project management. Now we look at the first 2. Network diagram. How do you come up with the network analysis? The graph drawn connecting the various activities and events of the project. Each event is represented by a cycle called a node. So event is normally a symbol of node. Each activity is represented by a arrow. So a arrow comes in between 2 events. So a arrow will show activities, event will be shown by a node or a cycle. Types of network diagram: event-oriented diagram. The emphasis is laid on the event of the project, so we are laying our emphasis or our focus on the event. An example is the program evaluation and review technique. Number 2 network diagram is activity-oriented diagram. The emphasis is given to the activity of the project. An example is critical path method. Rules. So the rules which are normally used in the preparation of the diagram: each activity is represented by 1 and only 1 arrow in the network. So normally between 2 events is an activity, and each activity is represented by 1 and only 1 arrow in the network. Number 2, no 2 activities can be identified by the same head and tail event. So we have head and tail event representing an activity. Except for the nodes, at the beginning and at the end of every node must have at least 1 activity presiding and at least 1 succeeding it. So in both sides we must have a presiding event, presiding activity and succeeding activity. Only 1 activity may connect any 2 nodes. So 1 activity is normally connecting 2 nodes. Now this is an example of network diagram. Now in a network diagram, we have the starting, which is event 1, then we have event 2, event 3, event 4, and finally the last event. So these are the events which are in cycles, which are nodes. Then we have arrows symbolizing the activities. Now I've given 2 L1, E2, and L2. E2 establishes early starting time. L symbolizes late starting time. So E2 and L2 is actually a representation of an event in the network diagram. So this is a simple diagram of how you need to come up with the project, from the starting project to the ending project. Critical path method, the network technique method which determines the maximum time a project can take. Generally used for repetitive type of project. So critical path method is normally used for projects which are of repetitive nature. Terminologies used in critical path method: Number one, critical path. The sequence of activities that determines the total project time. So the sequence of activity that determines the total project time is what we call critical path. The path that must be followed to accomplish the project. The path that starts from the initial event and ends in the terminal event. Critical activity. An activity whose float is 0. They are all activities lying on the critical path. So when you talk about critical activity, it is an activity which is within the critical path. The critical path method consists of the following: planning, the sequences activity to be performed in the network. Number 2, scheduling time and resources to various operations. Number 3, controlling the performance. So these are components of critical path method. Steps to be followed in the preparation of critical path method. The following are steps to be followed in the preparation and presentation of critical path method. List the activities and draw the network diagram. 2. Determine the earliest event time and the latest event time. How do you get that? You need to establish the earliest starting time and the earliest finishing time for the earliest event time. 2. Latest starting time and latest finishing time for the latest event time. Determine the float for each activity. Identify the critical activities. They have a 0 value. So when you determine the float, the value of 0 determines the critical activities. Draw another line following the critical path using the critical activities. So after drawing the network diagram, draw another line by dotting. Draw another line. Now this line will actually be a representation of critical path. So a double line in a network analysis gives a critical path. Determine the duration of the project. How do you get the duration of the project? You just do the summation of the critical path. Follow the critical activities and find the total time used. Problem. A project schedule of a construction has the following characteristics: activity and time. 1 to 2, 4 minutes. 1 to 3, 1 hour. 2 to 4, 1 hour. 3 to 5, 1 hour. 3 to 5, 6 hours. 4 to 9, 5 hours. 5 to 6, 4 hours. 5 to 7, 8 hours. 6 to 8, 1 hour. 7 to 8, 2 hours. 8 to 10, 5 hours. 9 to 10, 7 hours. Now that brings us to the end of the problem. So we'll do a practical part of the network analysis.